Welcome to another episode of Sounds of Mulika. Today we are joined by a wonderful young lady. I'll allow her to introduce herself and we'll get into this very important conversation as we address issues on rape and defilement, looking at it from a community level. And let's get moving. Welcome.
Thank you, Val.
Please tell us your name, what you do, why, where, and how.
Okay. Oh, how. My name is Jerop Limo. I am from Nairobi, Kenya. I lead an organization called Ambassador for Youth and Adolescent Reproductive Health Program. It's a youth-led, youth-focused organization that works with, for, and adolescents living with and affected by HIV. The how is we do a lot of programs. We implement projects that are centering the needs of young people at different levels, at community level and at service delivery points level. That is the facility or the clinic, depends. Why? I just want to make sure young people who are like me, or rather who are coming behind me, really don't go through some of the challenges some of us who've been in this space who are affected by these diseases have actually gone through. So yeah, that's why.
Now, I know that you've talked about having many programs to ensure that you're helping young people that come after you not to go through these challenges. Are these programs making a difference at community level? Not the ones of IRF, by the way, just generally.
I mean, I would say yes and no. I would say yes because we have evidence of actual impact. There's stories of impact that we can tell. There's progress we can be able to say this person came in at this point and they've grown at individual level, skills-wise level, knowledge-wise level. We've seen their life change up until this level. So I would say there is evidence, and that's the aspect of the yes. And of course, this work cannot be done by one person or one organization. It's more of a multi-sectoral, multi-partnership, kind of approach. And no, because I always still feel like we don't get to the actual people. That a lot of our work is at a certain level that is not really where some of these issues actually happen.
Now you're getting to my point. Who are the actual people and what level is this? When we're looking at, because now yours is around sexual and reproductive health as a whole, even before we dive into Mulika and specifically rape and defilement, who are the actual people that need this kind of information, that need the impact of the programs that you offer?
I mean, for me, I always look at the people in need of these programs and intervention as the people who actually wear the shoe. In this instance, it would be going deep into, for example, where we are right now, Kayole, uko ndani, where people don't even understand what reproductive health is. They have no clue, they can even barely articulate properly and explain some of the gaps they are facing. They don't even know that they have rights as human beings, for example. They don't know that there are systems put in place for them to be able to access help when they need. So for me, the actual people are the vulnerable people who are facing the challenges we talk about. And a lot of times, you won't find these people in boardrooms, in hotels where we sit. You would find these people in urban areas where we tend to sort of focus on. You will find these people deep in their houses, in the communities, in the informal settlement areas, and they have no idea that there's an organization called IRF that does this and they could actually benefit from.
Now you've said something that has made me cringe a little. They don't even know the definition of reproductive health. Do I know what that is? Please educate me. What is reproductive health?
I mean, I was about to say it's just the word. Every human being has a reproductive, or rather the reproductive system. So the health part is the necessary services, commodities that are required maybe to help you take care of your reproductive system. So for us women, your uterus, your vagina, all this whole system that needs to be taken care of. So if I have an STI, I need to know that I can go into a health center and get commodities to help me heal that disease or deal with that issue. If I am pregnant, I need to know that there is a clinic where I need to go to receive my antenatal care. So ideally, and even for boys, not just for women and girls. Yeah.
So you've said certain words that in many communities are a taboo. You said vagina. How dare you?
How dare I?
Yeah. Because when we're talking about rape and defilement, you'll find in many homes, we've all grown up somewhere, whether it was your home or the neighbors or your cousin, wherever it was, people don't talk about such things. But the statistics on rape and defilement show that it's those that we live with. So are children not taught the names of these parts of the body, reproductive health, holistically, or is it because in some conversations we've had that children, you say yes, everything daddy says is yes, mommy says is yes, uncle, you're forced to greet these people and give them a hug. So if they force you to do that and it's inappropriate, you can't talk about it. What went wrong?
One, I think some of the patterns or behaviors or the way we do things, especially as Africans, is from, culture and how we are taught to do things. For example, the forcing of go and hug uncle, and these people are not even your uncle or your auntie. And if you refuse, then you're, of course, misbehaved or disrespectful child. And we've seen that even when we were growing up, and we've been conditioned to behave a certain ways, from shying off from actually saying that this is an actual vagina and not using the word tabia mbaya, or those very unclear words that we tend to use just because we are really scared of saying the word vagina, like it's a scientific word, so we are conditioned even not to understand that this could be wrong, that if a person is touching me this way, then this is wrong. If a person is touching my breast, this is wrong. Nobody really says the direct word, and I think those are some of the gaps that are contributing to what we are seeing today, that children are not able to define what is good touch and what is bad touch just because they're supposed to accept whatever uncle or a grown-up or an adult says, and even just the lack of knowledge. And we've had cases, especially when you're dealing with the community, where a child was told, don't let people see your panty, and the child, panty, okay, so I'm going to remove the panty. And she climbed the tree because what did the mom say? Don't let people see your panty. The mom was not clear.
What would have been the most appropriate way to tell the child?
I think depending on the age of that child, and that's why we have age-appropriate information, there are ways you can be able to talk to a child depending on their level of understanding. You see, this mother left it at panty. Panty ni nguo. According to this child, ni hii nguo. But the mother innocently thought, nikimwambia panty, then maybe atashikanisha. So the child thought it was the cloth. So the cloth is what should be private and not necessarily the vagina.
So now, you see, in many conversations, again, because we've had many, people are mulikaring wazazi. Are we going to blame parents because they're raising the children the way they were raised? And so even if we want to mulika them, how do we help parents to talk about this issue? Because I don't know. I mean, speaking with many parents, they'll be like, Kechi Vizuri. I mean,
I understand.
And why is it difficult? Is it because we're African? Is it because who has made us afraid to? Because you can say, this is my ear.
Yeah, but you can't say, this is my breast.
No.
I think, one, it's culture. I really do feel it's we just make it look as if it's strange and it's something we shouldn't talk about. And there's this thing I really discovered, is that parents assume if I tell you the truth, then you will actually go and do what I'm telling you not to do.
That's the same assumption we have with CSE.
Yes.
That if we educate the children on their sexuality, we are encouraging them to go and experiment sex.
Yes.
Right?
Similar assumption, actually.
Is that the truth?
No. I've been doing this work for 8 years now. And for me, when I observe young people, especially the ones I directly interact with, I can literally see their mindset and their outlook of life change day by day. There's so much power that comes with understanding and knowing things. There's so much power that comes with making a choice from an empowered point of view. And sometimes I always use myself as an example and say, I don't think if I didn't have an opportunity to access this space, I would be here right now. Probably I would be married, I would be having 5 kids deep in Siju where, you know. No! Sorry. Of course babies are nice, but you see I was a child then. I had really no business having a child then compared to my outlook of life now and then. But having knowledge helped me understand, okay, this is wrong, you can actually say no, you can actually compromise here, you shouldn't allow this and this to happen. And with comprehensive sexuality education, it's not like we are coming to a 5-year-old and we are telling them everything. There is age appropriate information. The older you grow, the more information you're given, and that's why we are really pushing for it to be absorbed into the education curriculum. Mtoto wa pre-unit or grades G1, they're not learning the same thing as grade 7. So it's broken down into ways that are digestible for this child depending on age. Yeah.
And you saying that there are many organizations and individuals pushing for it to be included in the education system. That gives the government control on what goes into it. So where we are failing our children, in my view, is allowing them to get that information anywhere else but from school. Don't you think so?
Yes.
Because that information, I mean, if I turn on my phone, I'll find it from, I don't know, I don't want to mention any names, but there are different places, different people, different organizations sharing that information that's not necessarily correct or age appropriate.
For sure.
But when we have a government that can allow that, and it is moderated, won't there be a change?
No, I think someone with the outlook that you have should advise the government. Sometimes I just say that oh God, this might sound wrong, but sometimes I really wish our government had spaces where they really sat down with communities and gave us an opportunity to share our outlook of things, because then probably we would influence how they look at it. And sometimes as human beings, we operate and we make decisions based on what we think is right, our biases, our beliefs, and we forget we're not supposed to think that way. As a leader, you're supposed to think about the people. You close all boxes and you just open the boxes of those people and what do they need and how do I configure this. But for me, the gap is also that our parents are not really doing anything, and it's two-sided. And I've seen a lot of issues around parenting in this day and age. I know parents are busy looking for money, life is hard, there is no time maybe to spend with your child, but at the same time it is easier to condition a child from when they are at home to when they go to school.
Now, talking about upbringing, what's the role of the community when we're growing up? The way you grew up, Jerop, is that the way children are being raised today?
Definitely not.
Tell me, how did you grow up? I'm not sure if we are from the same generation.
Definitely not. I mean, there's such a huge difference.
Tell me, in what ways?
First, my neighbor was equal my mother. Even my neighbor who lives in the house that is like 10 houses from our house was equally my mother. When I was sure if I'm seen with a boy, that information will get home and I will be questioned, and I had the right to answer that person. They're not my parent, but I had the right. There was a form of accountability and general parenthood or communal parenthood where even an auntie, even an uncle, even Mama Mboga, who you buy mboga from, had or felt or took up the responsibility of looking after you when no one was looking after you. And I think that is something we don't have nowadays. Sayu kichipa mtoto wa mtu, you might end up in jail.
Not might.
You will.
You shall.
Will. For sure, you will. So it's not the same. Kitambo us, it was playing outside. Playing outside, playing in the dust. Now it's children on screen with iPads as when they're as young as 1 year old, and they're just scrolling and scrolling. There's no that outside sort of culture of playing and all that. But even for us, there was a lot of conversations. I feel like for us there was a lot of conversation. I read somewhere on Twitter someone saying that children of today are parenting themselves. Them and
Isn't
their
that
gadgets.
sad?
Isn't that sad? For sure. It
so
is.
When we look at all these things that are happening now on the news, we see from a 3-day-old to a 3-month-old to a 3-year-old to a 13-year-old being defiled. What do you have to say about that?
First, I think we were just saying with colleagues here that it's scary. I for sure, Val, it is scary. I don't think there's any woman or girl who is not scared right now. Everyone is scared.
Or boy.
Or boy.
Or man. Yeah.
Everyone is scared because we are living. Like every single day there's a case. Someone was raped, defiled, and they were killed. Baby Tamara, for example. And I'm like, what was going on in the head of this person, you know? And I'm seeing that people are angry and they're deciding to take matters into their own hands. And I understand that anger and that pain because I feel it too. And more than ever, we need our justice system to actually prove that it cares and it works and that it is efficient. More than ever. With these cases every single day.
It's daily. Someone just
left the house, the girl in Siaya, she just left the house and she never came back and she was found. The 69-year-old woman.
Imagine.
Like, what communities are we living in, and where is that accountability aspect, and where is that? Because when I was growing up, I remember if I was going to school very early, we were told to walk together.
Yes.
Where did that go? And
or escorted by a parent.
Exactly. Or someone to take you. And I think it's normalizing the culture of kama inihusu
Mr. Kishida.
Someone will look at you, get robbed there, beaten or whatever. I'm gonna mind my business and go.
But they'll record it.
Yeah, to post on Twitter because that's what we are good at.
Yeah.
But the lack of social responsibility that this is a fellow human being I can support, I can step in. Nobody wants to do that, and I do understand because there's law and there's this thing, and nobody wants to involve themselves. But that is how we are making our community extremely unsafe. Yeah.
But recently in Nyeri, a man who was found to have defiled a child, a religious leader was burnt to death.
Yeah.
Are we saying, or are we beginning to see a trend where members of the community are taking justice into their own hands because the justice system is not working? Is that what we can say?
I for sure it's true, and you remember there was a time even as girls and women we went and had a very huge protest in Nairobi. I mean, people are tired. People really are tired, and for me it's maybe it would be wrong to say when I see communities taking into their hands, it's exciting for me because I'm like, you know what, tumechoka, it's enough. And I constantly say there's a huge trust that is broken between our justice system, our law enforcers, and the community, and it's because of decades of unsuccessful just cases taking so long that people are like, you know what, hata akienda ndani si ataachiliwa tu ama, you know, and that's a life taken. Well, that is not the right way to go about it, but I just think the communities are like, no, we are tired.
Yeah, but wanawachiliwa, the presidential pardon wachiliad a number of people who are known rapists and defilers.
Like, why?
And women were dancing. Jerop, did you see that?
Like, why? They celebrated and they get, oh my God. When I think about it, I want to cry. I'm not gonna cry. But For sure, that's why sometimes I feel like some parts and some spaces and systems in our government, they really don't care about us, to be honest.
How would you release? Because fine, everyone is allowed favor and whatever, but you're pardoning someone who has destroyed the life of a child and is going back to the same community where this child, who is now an adult still lives.
Yep. Probably they've processed their trauma. Probably they're now trying to live their life normally.
And
of course, that will never be possible. And then, boom, I'm gonna meet that guy. I think it's the assumption of, okay, you've been raped, shafanyika, you'll be fine. I think people don't understand the psychological magnitude such actions have on people's lives, and we just tend to assume and we water it down, and it doesn't matter. See, it's happened. You'll be fine. You're alive. If you have a child, probably you should keep that child.
At least you didn't die.
Yeah, you didn't die, so. People don't understand the psychological aspect of it.
Yeah. So if you were to Mulika someone, an institution, an individual, a ministry, whatever it is, who would it be and why?
One, I think there are different levels and ways to look at it. I think as parents, caregivers, whether you're taking care of a child that is not your own, you have the responsibility of really trying to empower your child as much as possible, because this could be happening on a daily basis. It inaweza kuwa in the house, but when a child might be trying to communicate and you're dismissive, or you don't pay attention, or a child says, I don't want to go back to that school, or they're afraid of someone whenever they see them. As parents, you have to be keen, you have to be watchful and really observe what is happening. So for me, it's parents. Parents have a role and responsibility, whether it's your child or not. Take charge. And I'm glad I see when parents report and a child is rescued or something is done, it's important that we take that role, not just for our children, but even for our neighbors and even for people around our community, but also teachers. We have some of these cases that have happened in school, but also teachers spend a lot of time with their children. Some of them have some sort of psychology training. They can tell when kids and children are not doing well.
Not some. All teachers go through a psychology unit. Yeah. Because it's important for developmental psychology.
Exactly.
So they have the skills. Yeah.
So they can actually tell when something is wrong with this child, because maybe home might not be safe. So where is my next safe space? Could be school, right? So a lot of these things could also happen in school among students. We've had cases of students raping fellow students in school and defiling fellow students. Yeah. So we, as teachers, they also have to be observant and try and escalate these cases forward.
But now teachers are afraid of reporting each other. You see, there's a whole systemic problem, Jerop, I'll tell you. Because if I report and that teacher is in good books with the head teacher or with someone at the Teacher Service Commission, I'm the one who will lose my job or be transferred to some place where I don't have access to my family. I don't know.
I think power play also has a huge aspect in this whole issue. Who is the perpetrator here, and what are the implications if I take this case forward? And sometimes I don't blame people, because we've seen people's lives destroyed just because they chose to speak the truth. We've seen people lose their careers. We've seen people being fought, physically and being attacked. So I totally understand, but I do think silence is also not the solution.
Someone educated me a few weeks ago. Silence is betrayal.
Yeah, for sure it is. For sure it is. Especially if it's like if it's a child, where this person does not have a voice. As advocates in this space, we are literally the voice of the voiceless. I don't get to shake, actually. And the last week we were in a meeting and a colleague was telling me, Jerop, as a leader, you don't get to get scared. You have to be the hope for those who are looking behind you. So even as a teacher, these children are looking up to you. So if you get scared, if you don't stand up for them, then you're literally not speaking
They have
up
nowhere to go.
Yeah, they have nowhere to go. But also our systems. I think a lot of these things are deeply broken systems that have existed for decades.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see the independently GBV cases operating, because these cases cannot take 5 years, to be honest. You're going to call this someone to recount. That's like you've forgotten for 2 days and then tomorrow you have to wake up and remember again. Like,
And
that
relive the whole experience all over again.
That is reopening
not
a
right.
wound every
Yeah.
single time. Then that person doesn't get to move on. We have our police system. We've had people talking about bribing. We've had people, perpetrators, being let out. Power play is a big issue, and we've seen it in many cases, even involving big people, right? So there is a need for our justice system, our government, to really work to repair this broken trust. Otherwise, people will go through some of these issues, people will be raped, people will be defiled, and people decide to just keep quiet. I'd rather keep quiet, I'd rather go on Facebook and rant about it, I'd rather start a TikTok campaign about it than follow up this case, because who wants to spend money and time and years talking about an issue and they're not even being believed, for example. So I think there are different levels that we have to really Mulika. And for me, the biggest aspect as a community person is that the social accountability system is important. As a community, we need to hold our systems accountable. If you reported and something didn't happen, I think there's a way to always follow up and to always make sure things are done right. Huyo mzee wa nyumba kumi akikubali bribe, you have to report it.
Yeah.
If they're supporting families to handle cases at community level or household level, that is not a leader. They should not even be a chief. They should be stripped off and even held accountable. So there are different systems of accountability that we require. But for me, most importantly, is I need to know that my neighbor can defend me.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And I think in closing, we need to have a lawyer in this conversation, because they need to tell us what kind of cases can be settled out of court. Because a sexual assault case should not be settled out of court. What are we agreeing on and paying each other about? Because that silence enhances the cycle. So for Mulika, we say we end the silence.
We end the cycle.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.